Hi, it's another beautiful day in Orange County, Southern California. Look at our weather here, October 21st. Look at that, holy moly. Anyway, today we're gonna look at this pretty fall tree here. It's called a Bradford. It's a sterile cultivar of the Callery Pear, or Pyrus calleryana. Some people say calleryana, I say calleryana. It comes to us from China. Now the genus Pyrus means pear in Latin, and the species calleryana comes from the French missionary Joseph Callery, who discovered this tree in China in 1858 and brought it back to Europe. So let's describe our little tree here. It's a Bradford. It's thornless, sterile, drought-tolerant, deciduous ornamental pear cultivar. It's a member of the Rosaceae family, so it's not only related to roses, but also apricots, peaches, plums, blackberries, lots of other fruit-bearing plants. Grows about 30 to 50 feet tall. It's got upright branches. Starts out as a pyramid shape or column shape, then it matures to this oval shape we have here. It gives us really showy flowers in spring. It's great at attracting birds. And I'll show you some more of these we have around town. So we have a few more in another part of town. Look at that beautiful colors here. Down here, holy smokes. Up here against this building, great colors. And take a look at this. Wow. So let's take a closer look here at our Bradford Callery Pear. You notice the branches are really upright. And this is a cultivar, but the true Callery Pear has thorns on the branches and the stems, and I don't see any thorns on this guy. As I said, it's a cultivar without thorns. It's got this kind of dark, shaggy bark. Now these trees, they only live to be about 15 to 20 years. Problem is they're real fragile. If you take a look at where the branches connect, it's a really tight V formation right here. And when we get this structure, we get this in cherry trees too. You get what's called included bark. And the bark comes down here, okay, at the connection, forms a real weak spot here. And then in a high wind, it could break off, fall down. Also, if it's really snowy, you got a lot of weight on this tree, it can fall and crack, and then these limbs fall off. See how tight this one here is? Look at that. So never park your car by this tree. And then nurseries, like in inclement weather places, they don't recommend this plant because it is quite fragile. Okay, we'll take a look at some of the foliage here. So in spring and summer, we get super well-shaped green tree. The leaves are glossy, dark, narrow oval shaped, about 3 inches long, and they have distinctive wavy patterns. And here, in fall, you notice it's got these really long petioles here, okay? I'm pulling off. Real long petioles. So they like to wave around in the wind, almost like an aspen. So it waves around. You notice it's got little wavy edge here, tiny bit serrated. And the fall colors, and this one's a little yellow orangish, right? We got some down here on the ground. See all these great different colors we have. This guy's a little reddish brown. We've got a purple guy here. And a little bit different on this cultivar, you notice sometimes at the tip here where the petiole connects to the actual leaf, it's a little bit heart-shaped. See that little indented there? Right here? A little bit heart-shaped. And you get that from this Bradford cultivar and not so much from the true Callery Pear. So this tree is noted for its profuse flowers that bloom in the springtime, and they're white, and they appear as dense coriums at the end of the branches in April, and then continue through summer. And the individual flowers, they're 5-petaled, creamy white, about 3/4 of an inch long, but the bad thing, they have a super offensive odor. It's like rancid cheese or rotting fish. And the fruits, they're small greenish yellow fruits, about a 1/2 inch diameter. Now they're not edible. They're loaded with cyanide in the seeds. So the fruits have very little practical value or even aesthetic interest. And the seeds are sterile, but they can become viable if cross-pollinated with a true Callery pear or non-sterile cultivar or different variety of this plant. And the fruit starts out rather hard and woody and softens by frost, just taken away by the birds, which disperse the seeds in their droppings. And if they're not sterile, they become really, really invasive. So here's another one of our Bradfords in another part of town. And this guy has a little bit of fruit on him. Not a lot. I'll pull this off here. See that? That's the little fruit from this tree. And he will seed, be eaten by a bird, and taken away. So to grow this plant at home, it needs full sun, drought tolerant, dry to medium water, but the watering has to be consistent. It's low maintenance. You just have to clean up all these leaves here on the ground, and the flowers, and the seeds, the fruits, and you got to kind of prune the branches, because if it gets too heavy, they will split, like I mentioned. It's also very resistant to roadside pollution, so it's great along the streets and the medians and the parking centers. It likes clay soils, best in well-drained loams, and protected from high winds or heavy snow, or we're going to get this guy to split. Alright, so the biggest problem with this plant, in addition to like splitting, is it's very, very invasive. So in the 1950s and 60s, the Bradfords were planted all around the southeast as ornamentals in parks and medians and walkways and homes, all throughout Ohio, Pennsylvania, Missouri, Georgia, North and South Carolina. So this tree here, the Bradford, I mentioned it's sterile, but if it cross-pollinates with a different cultivar or a true Callery pear, you will get viable seeds. And the birds will carry off the seeds, spread them out in their droppings, and it becomes real invasive. The seeds just germinate, and you get little forests of this plant here. And that's a problem. In fact, in South Carolina, Pennsylvania, they've banned Callery pears altogether. In North Carolina, they have eradication campaigns to cut them down, grind up the stumps. That's too bad, because it's a pretty plant. Now, California, we don't have that problem with it being invasive, so that's good. Okay, so the history on this plant is native to China and Taiwan. The seeds were brought to America in 1917 to be hybridized to improve resistance to the highly infectious disease called fire blight, which is affecting the fruiting pears, like we find out in Georgia. And this Bradford itself is super resistant to fire blight, but the experiments on the regular pears was not successful, so they promoted this as a super ornamental out across the countryside in the 50s and 60s. It's very inexpensive, it transports well, it grows real quickly. And Lady Bird Johnson, so she even promoted this tree in 1966 by planting it downtown Washington, D.C. So in the 1980s, concerns about overplanting and the trees' natural weaknesses became a problem. And so they kind of discontinued this plant out in the states more or less east of the Mississippi River. Okay, and today there's these big forests of Bradford or these Callery pears just choking out the natural plants and inhabitants. So there you go. This is our Bradford cultivar of the Callery pear we have here in Orange County. So I hope you liked that video. Have a great day. Bye.